Welcome to my podcast, Shaping Your Journey. My name is Aldo Matza, percussionist, drummer, and artistic director of KoSA Music, inviting you to join in conversation with friends, artists, professionals, and experts in the music field. Today, I have the great pleasure of having with me Mr. Anders Astrand, all the way from Sweden. Great friend of mine, friend of ours, and we've been playing together here and there. And this will be a conversation on shaping your journey. Welcome, and thank you so much, Anders, for joining me today. It's been a while. We've been trying to coordinate this for a while, so finally we did it. Yes.
Yes, thanks, Aldo. Pleasure to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, you and I know you're really into the improvising. You're a great mallet player, and you're really into the whole improvisation idea. But before we talk about shaping your journey in that direction, what you've done, just take us back a little bit and tell us, where was that beginning? Where was that first spark for you? What did it?
I grew up in a small town south of Stockholm, like 3 hours, and basically from my grandfather. If it was today, he would be professional, but that time there was like all the different kind of factories around Sweden had their own orchestras, many of them. And he was working for a factory where they make matches. And then the head of the factory said, "How many guys are playing instruments here?" It's like, and I think it was like 30, 40 people. So he gave them the best room with the best view, bought the instruments and all that stuff. But I mean, during that, my grandfather, he was that time zone when they play not only one instrument. He played bass, banjo, trumpet, French horn, and all of those. And he had his own band, where almost all of them were changing instruments. So when they needed an accordion, then that guy played bass, etc., etc. So when he was babysitting me, I was sitting in the front of the band. So I was sitting in the front of the drummer and so on. They play everything from Goodman music to operette, as we say, like light opera stuff and so on, and Swedish folk music, etc. So I really was natural to be, and I think then I tried to play some French horn when I was 5, didn't rumbling around, and then I really took the decision to start to play an instrument when I was around 10. And we had what we say community school instead, where you take private lessons, and met a wonderful piano teacher who said after my first piano lesson, when you've been playing with the thumbs, right, on Saturday you come to my house and you have a private lesson. And I thought it would be piano, but it was basically, we started with theory. So I started clapping rhythms and reading music, etc. So after 2 years, I could do the choral harmony thing and conduct and sing and rhythms and all that stuff. And then on my piano lessons, suddenly he just took a bass, started to play behind me. And said, "Oh, you can also play whatever you like right now." And so I was like, oops. So it was kind of, I think the whole improvised part came quite natural. Plus, he picked me up. I think I had playing for 2 months. Saturday morning, 8 o'clock, honk, honk. Okay, nice dressed. And then
Wow.
We went to retirement homes and so on. And I played my piano pieces and he was playing cello or bass behind me, etc. So it came really early on. And then after finished the ground school, as we say, that's like we had the 9th grade, and then you go into gymnasium, that's high school in Sweden. Or gymnasium is like high school in the States. And I was totally not interested to go into the high school. I would like to go to the music part of it. And there was a special school we still have called folkhögskola. That means directly translated people high school. And back in the days, it was schools for, let's say you've been a truck driver, you got back problems, you can go and study there and change your path. So they also had music programs and for amateurs. But that, during this time, this is like 1978 or something, I applied and it had turned into be like a program you go before university, almost like a college thing. And I was 16, and you should be 18. So they put me on the list. They said, yeah, we call you if we need any percussionist. And I went back to my little place. This is up north. So with train, it's like 24 hours. And I was thinking, okay, fingers crossed, I hope I will get in. Nothing happened. October, suddenly in the mid-October, I'm in high school, I'm bored. I got a phone call from the percussion teacher, say, hey, we need you, can you come? I was like, yeah, and then up in the north, in the middle of nowhere, there is a percussion house out in the woods where you have a key, you can go anytime. And that was really my first contact with marimbas and so on. I forgot to tell you, but I started to play piano. I played the piano all the time, and after 2 years I said to my piano teacher, I would like to start to play drums. And that was not really a drum teacher, but it was a clarinet player who'd been playing drums in the military. So he gave me a practice pad, a book, and say, hey, see you. So I kind of, because of reading, I could try to figure out stuff and so on. And of course, listen to recordings, etc. And I started my own big band when I was 13. So I bought a lot of arrangement and listened to Buddy Rich every day and all that stuff. So I've been kind of drumming and piano was going together. So basically what I did, I took my reading skills, musical skills, and put them into the drums. And when I was working, or when I put together this big band, we had a great trombone player who'd been professional in the 30s, 40s. I asked him if he can conduct the band. And we had Friday afternoons, 4 o'clock to 7 or something, we had rehearsals. And then after that, he said, now you come to my apartment and we will listen to music. So he recorded like the whole jazz history for me. And speaking to me, it's like, this is Dizzy Gillespie, 1954, bam, bam, bam. So I got like feeded with all this kind of stuff.
Beautiful, basically. Beautiful.
And then, so now up to the school again, when I got the key to the percussion house, but the percussion teacher I had was also, what happened was in Sweden, like back in the days, there was not really, like you have in the States, for example, where you have like, you study percussion, you study that. It's like, basically they start in the army. And everybody start to play the drum. And then they say, you play trumpet, you play clarinet, etc. So the drum teacher I had as a percussion teacher, he was from beginning a trumpet player and then a good drummer. So he played in the Swedish Radio Symphony. And the Swedish Radio Symphony started as a light orchestra. And then they said, we need some percussionists. Then said, who was the best guys here? And they pointed at him and another one. So they suddenly were the percussionists. And so the training they had, they play beautiful. He plays so melodic drum and all that stuff. But when you came to keyboard, it was like target shooting his notes. And I had my skills from the piano. So I would just, try to transpose so to see what I can do. But I got frustrated. You come from 10 fingers to 2 mallets. So I was thinking, skip that. So I kind of put in some other mallets and tried to figure out how to do it. So basically, I'm really self-taught in that kind of whole game with the keyboards. But I need to say, the piano helped me all the way.
Sure. Yeah. That was a great way to start. I had the first guy, believe this or not, I was a drummer and started studying percussion, but just a little bit. And I had a really good teacher in the beginning, but I got serious and I went to a summer camp. And the first person, it was the Ludwig Percussion Symposiums. And the first person who taught me how to hold 4 mallets was Gary Burton.
Oh, wow.
How's that for
What a good start.
I played a little bit of xylophone, but nothing really. And then I fell in love with the vibraphone after hearing his records and knowing that he was there. I sat in his classes and he showed me how to play the Burton grip right away. So, and after that, when I went into university, everybody was playing 2 mallets. And I'm saying, oh man, no, you got to play 4 mallets. He said, well, how do you do that? So I would show them. I couldn't really play, but they were way ahead of me. I had just begun in this, but I knew how to hold the mallets really well. I'd been practicing.
I can hold 4 mallets. But same, kind of same. So this is, I think 79, did my first professional kind of gig with an army band. And the guy I was subbing for, he was a member of PAS. So he had the percussion notes, and I never seen that before. I didn't know about that. This is before internet. So I borrowed every magazine, and suddenly there was articles from Gary showing his scripts. I kind of, that sounds clever. So and did my little tweak on it and so on. So thanks for that, Gary. But same thing. So I remember I had it on my music stand and kind of, okay, let's go. Let's see how this works. And trying all these traditional grips and all that stuff. But it felt so natural coming from piano to do that kind of thing.
No, but it was great that you started with piano, because that's such a launch pad. Most people don't realize how important that is. I tell even my drum students and percussion students, you have to take piano. And the more you do of that, the better you get, because it's all transferable knowledge, right?
It is. It's so much easier. When we play in bands and so on, you can follow the charts, the harmony, you hear it different and so on. So been a big help for sure. And composing.
Yeah. Did you study at university or anything, or did you just continue from a professional point of view?
Yeah.
So you didn't study?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I studied this
at the university.
Sorry, I lost you a little there. So I studied this folkhögskola. That was like 3 years. So, and then I did my high school degrees on that school. But basically, I was out playing all the time. And then I started the university up on the same place, sort of. And I was thinking, should I try to go to Stockholm, Malmö? But I had built up so many great things up there. I started my own percussion quartet after 2 years. And suddenly we got a lot of gigs. So I was thinking, I cannot leave this place. Plus, the dean of that school, he took me under his arm immediately. He and his friend, the dean was a clarinet player, and his friend was a great vibe player. Played in the style of, I would say, very inspired from Oscar Peterson and so on. And, yeah, good swing player, wonderful swing player. So when I've been there for a month on that school, I was practicing drums one evening, and then he showed up and said, "Are you the new percussion guy?" "Yes." "How fast can you play brushes?" I was like, "I pick you up on Friday." And then I almost play with them almost every weekend. And they played, of course, a lot of swing or Charlie Parker, whatever. And every time I said, "So what are we going to play tonight?" "You will hear." So there was no count off. There was nothing. It was like you just try to figure out stuff. And then I remembered suddenly it could be like a dance gig or it could be a concert. And one of the concerts, I've been playing with them maybe for 2 months or something. We're on a little place somewhere. And then the dean said, "Okay, now audience, now you will hear a new piece for drum set. Composed by a Japanese composer, and it's world premiere, and Anders here will perform it." And then he turned around to me and said, "Play, you stupid idiot." I was like, that was just made up on the spot. So I've been in those kind of environment a lot, so I never get scared of it, sort of. So
nice. That builds courage. Well, what's really nice is, and I grew up like this, improvising all the time, and it was funny because, I learned playing in bands and playing, being on the spot a lot. And my reading wasn't really, since I was not a reader, even until I was 18 or something, I had to do a lot of catching up. So I would look at once I was in university, I would look at my friends playing these Chopin and Beethoven, and I would just be in awe. Just how in God's name do they read all of those notes? That's incredible. And watching everybody play, I was looking up at everybody. I was saying, "Oh my God, have I got a lot of catching up to do?" So I would practice 8 hours a day, minimum. And then, but the funny thing is this, that I remember a friend of mine was playing a Chopin or something, and the music fell, and he stopped. I said, "Why did you stop?" He says, "Because I don't know the music, and I need the music." And I said, but that's really weird that you can't. If you're stuck in a situation, you would just stop? He said, "Well, I don't know the music, so I would stop." So that never made sense to me. So I said, "Well, so I had one over somebody like that. I would just keep going, and you make it up, right?" Yeah.
You're in the language
I
anyway,
did.
so sort of, yeah. So
yeah, so
absolutely.
And that set me up for, what you're really good at is the instant improvisation. And I know when you came to KoSA, I mean, you and I played a couple of times, and I still have the recordings of all of this. And I don't know if I have. I've been looking for the video of this because I know we filmed it when you were there the first time, especially. Did I ever send you the film of this, the video,
I got the audio track.
the audio,
So,
but not the
yeah.
video?
No, I don't know. And
Okay.
maybe, yeah, in that case, probably many years ago. So that was, when was that? 2002 or 3 or something, right?
No, I don't think it was that early. Wow. I'll have to look. I'll have to look
Yeah.
the first time. But I mean, just the fact, and I still do this, a lot with people. You just show up on stage, and I mean, you've been working all of these years. You've gathered your voice, your knowledge, your things, and you perform. And then when you and I played together, I'm playing with you, and I'm saying, yeah, no, this feels like I've known this man for all my life, and we're having this conversation, and and it should feel that way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
But I think it also comes to, right, to experience backgrounds and who you've been surrounded with, sort of. And I think it's not, it's sometimes it's like you meet a person and that can take you to a totally new direction. And I mean, I remember when I was like in university, I was thinking, and I was subbing a lot in the Swedish radio symphony because, again, my percussion teacher, hey, we need you here. It's like, oops, I'm done. And I remember that experience. I was 20 years old, you're standing with this professional, incredible orchestra, and I felt like, wow, this is my future. And I was there a lot until I started freelancing and moved to Stockholm. Suddenly, I felt like, I'm not really have the heart in this. But then the chamber music took over when it's like, remember the 80s when everything was like big setups and there was like incredible lot of things, and it took 2 months to figure out the chart, and then you play it, you record it, and you feel like, I mean, Xenakis and all of those things. And
yes, yeah, oh yes.
and I'm really thankful nowadays that I did it. But today I would probably fail. But it's like, I think what it really gives you is like you get so much different kinds of sounds because of the whole modern music. So that combining in the filter of being always improvising takes you to so many different places and possibilities.
No, it's good. It's good training because it takes you out of your own comfort zone, and you have to learn something that somebody else has thought about or puts in front of you. I remember my first year university. We had we had a weekend workshop with John Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Cage himself. And I had no idea where he was coming from, but it was really interesting, just his whole concept of changing words or playing with a situation or creating a situation, and you make music out of that situation. And it was like, totally, what you think is, it totally takes you outside the box, and it feels like you're nude or you're not standing on anything, and it really uncomfortable for a minute. But after a while, you say, this is the way it should be, because you should be able to have that conversation no matter what, and try not to sweat. It is what it is. And then you just go inside rather than playing with things that are already preset and then basically repeating yourself all the time. Totally not, and explore. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, that's just the name of it. But
Absolutely.
it was really interesting to have had this experience, and all these guys with, from Varese to Stockhausen, I mean, whatever it was. Not that we would do that all our lives, but I think having that background gives you a sense of aesthetic that is opened up, right? That
Oh
you
yeah,
draw.
absolutely. I think so. And then when you meet, like, I mean, our first meeting, you don't really know each other, and then okay, you start to talk on stage, right? And so, or if it's in a practice room or a studio, whatever it is. So it's like, I remember one time, Michael Gold, right? He's in
Of
Michigan.
course. Yes.
So we didn't really know each other, but we went into a studio the first time. It's like, okay, let's play, and everything started kind of going, and then it's, okay, finish. It's like first song and whatever it was, and then we asked the sound guy, okay, how long was that? 45 minutes. It's like, okay, yeah. So, but that just means that it was like a lot of things to talk about. So,
Sure, sure. I mean, in your whole path, you've been a player. You've come. I mean, you're involved with developments of music, development of. I mean, uh, like you're working with Zildjian and Mike Balter, and and educating people in not just to play the instrument, but having vision, right? I mean, this is another thing that you
yeah,
do, right?
and I think it's like for you, right? You start to create things, and I mean, you need to be. You have two choices. If you don't work, have a steady work somewhere, you need to be your own entrepreneur and wear different kind of hats and so on. And I was so the whole Sildian thing started for me. I signed with him '99 as an artist, and I that was my beginning of all this when it started to happen. But coming from Sweden, we don't have really those endorsement traditions that there was in the States and etc. So I remember after doing PASIC, '99 was my first experience to play at PASIC, and that was also fantastic. Like have all these 3,000 percussionists, and it's like this is crazy. And then I played with some friends of mine, and then we did this what you call a clinic performance or something, and I still remember that it was like I'm there on stage talking, okay, this is how I think about this stuff. And then I played something, and suddenly I hear on the front, like, man, wow, yeah. And I think, who is that? Oh, that was Emil Richards. And it was so open minded, and many people come up after, and it's like, oh, where have you been? It's like, I'm here now. It's like, so. And I remember when I went back, I said, how should I keep this part going? Like, because that was when I also had been working for 15 years or more with the chamber and tried to do my own things in Sweden. Sweden is a small country, so I felt I need to find new directions. And with that, it was actually Michael Burritt who really opened the door for me. So this happened. So long story short, but I think it was '95. I played with two saxophone players, lived in Sweden for a while, went back to Northwestern University and finished their studies, the doctoral studies. They called me after 1 week and said, hey, can you come to the spring? And we can borrow some instruments and we organize some gigs. I said, yeah. And I've never really been traveled a lot in the States. I mean, twice maybe. And so I came there and they said, oh, by the way, we met your brother. It's like, okay. It's like, this is Michael Burritt. So I kind of percussion notes, like, who is that? And then I met him in, I think it was '96, April or something. I said, oh, so you're Michael, thanks for borrowing instruments, blah, blah, blah. And this time I was working up north at the university teaching and just got money so I can bring in guest artists. And I was thinking, I really would like to open the door and be more international. So I said, Michael, would you like to come to Sweden? It's like, I'm on a small place up north in the middle of nowhere. Like, are you serious? Absolutely. It's like, so when can you come? And then, this was I think his first year at Northwestern. So it was like busy like crazy. So after checking calendars, it's like January '97, he came over with his wife, Chris, and same thing. After an hour, we felt like we'd been knowing each other since way back. And we started to play together, and it came out to my studio, and that is my drums like this, like marimba vibes. He down at the drum set started playing, and I up on the keyboards, and suddenly he turned off and said, what are you doing? I said, I'm improvising. But that's no. I said, yes, but that's unique. I said, no, come on, you live in a country where there's so many wonderful players, like that's nothing new. You have your own voice. And then it's like nothing more with that. And then in the evening he said, can you come this summer? Sure. And then he took me to Bands of America at that time when it was, and I met suddenly a bunch of students and teachers. And in the middle of the audience, it was like one guy with mustache come up after and say, hey, my name is Jim, follow me. So it was Jim Campbell. And so those two really opened the door for me and said, "Hey, you need to contact this guy. You need to do this and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Okay." Like so suddenly, here we are.
Nice, nice,
So
nice. No, no, that's fantastic. I mean, it's important. It's, all of these things. I mean, they're nothing is a coincidence. I mean, you show up in a place and there's someone else is there who hears you, who then turns you on to another situation, and it's all about that. I mean, it's
yeah,
it's it's our voyage that we design. That's the whole point of this whole discussion is nothing happens just out of the blue. I mean, you have this interest, so all of a sudden you show up somewhere, and then something else happens, and you make things happen. I mean,
exactly.
if you
So
stayed home, Anders, nothing would happen.
no, no, that's true. And also, I mean, so back to the Sildian thing. So then 2008, Keith Aleo asked me if I could do something in Europe and be like a consultant. And since then, I'm a consultant. And beginning was only, I mean, the cymbal company, and then I mean, the Portvik Furt and Mike Bolter and so on. So suddenly it's like a lot of things under the umbrella. So nowadays it's sort of in the artist relation team, which is very interesting. And I see, so I can see on both sides of the fence, sort of,
Right.
and it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's
I
nice,
learn a
and also
lot. Yeah.
and also to be able to inspire people. And I mean, you're also, I mean, you're a great player. And by the way, yeah, you remember when you played repercussion when we played the last time we played at PASIC.
Oh
You
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
sat in with us and you played one or two numbers with us. That was fun. We had tons of people sitting. I said, well, let's invite some people to play with us. That was great.
That was, yes. I think I played on the mallet cat. I remember I had
Yes,
a Mario coming up and say, "Mario, help me!" It's like,
yes.
oh,
Being
oh,
on
that's
the
fun.
spot. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. But now, I mean, you're touring a lot, right? All over, also in playing and teaching.
I do, and thanks for. I mean, during as everybody, there is a life before and after pandemic, right? And luckily, of all these travels to so many universities, I I suddenly had so much work to do during the pandemic. First, it was like for everyone, it was like totally nothing, and that was the first time for me, and I know for everybody, right? We think like, okay, is this it? Should I? Is the time over? What should I do? Sort of. But suddenly I said, hey, can you do an inspiration seminar, etc. So got little better cameras. But what I really learned was like to make some videos, because there was a lot of students sitting on the dorms, could not go to the school, just had a practice pad and some sticks and so on. So my inspiration was like, hey, go out in the kitchen. What can you find? What's is sounding good? Compose. Go. Do you have GarageBand or whatever? It's like, go for it. Try to find stuff to do, sort of. So that
So
was
you,
it. That was really, and it was fun. I was 2 years of in my studio. So
yes. Oh, yes. Well, this is where I spent 2 years.
yeah,
Yeah. So thank God for having a studio. This is, I call it my playpen because,
yeah,
people who used to come in the door as students or rehearsals or group classes that we would hold here under the KoSA Academy umbrella just suddenly stopped, right? So all of a sudden, it becomes your world becomes something else, and another creative kicks in, you know.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I think it's interesting, right? How much we learn from this part, the whole Zoom thing.
Oh, yes.
And I know you talked about one of your uh, podcasts here. You talked about elk.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Which
yeah,
is from Sweden,
yeah.
and it's funny. It's funny about elk because we are always trying to do because we did during the whole COVID we did our KoSA workshops online. I said everybody's sitting at home, so let's take this there. So I made the rounds of David Garibaldi, Chester Thompson, all of Mike Clark, all of these people. I said, everybody's sitting at home, not working, not doing anything. We can't just sit there. Let's stimulate and let's inspire. So we did. I mean, one year we had 13 artists. I mean, at KoSA, sometimes we would have up to 25, 28 artists one year in that whole week
Wow.
of workshops and camp. But I said, let's just do this. But I had to make the rounds of teaching people how to use the technology. I had to learn it myself and
Yeah.
then try to teach some of the other people, help them get set up. And then I said, let's see if we can play, but we couldn't. So then a friend of mine who was actually in the playing with, Leonard Cohen was from Montreal. So some of the people who were with him from Europe in his last band before he passed said, there's this company in Sweden that's developing this whole technology where you can play with no delay, and he said, I'm involved in the beta testing and everything. So he sent me a video they had just done, and she was a harp player. Yeah, because her father came to KoSA one year. She was a harp player, and he was a bass player, and she was where was in England, the bass player was in Italy, and they played live, and I just that's incredible. So I reached out to the folks at Elk,
Mm.
and I said I have to promote this because this is fantastic. Like, we have arrived. This is I think there's a limit on the distance that you can do. You can't do like 6,000 miles yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're working on that, but there is a distance factor. But it's still amazing. I mean, that you can play.
Yeah.
Have you had experience with that with the Elk?
No, I just know about it. So I like you, I will take a contact and see, because it
Oh, so I'll give you
sounds.
that. I
Yeah,
you know
that would be great.
I reached out to Alan Molnar, and I said, Alan, do you know about this? He says, no, not really. So here, take this down and I check it out. So, I mean, he went crazy. He
Of
bought
course.
5 of them.
I remember when he was on Skype, the first, like when we in the beginning of it, it's like, and
Yes, yes.
all of us
Well,
was like, wow,
yes.
this
I
is
mean,
happening. Like,
And I was working. I mean, he's been with like the whole KoSA faculty for a very long time. I've known him for, over 30 years. But when I brought him into this project, he would always, and he started doing his online teaching and training or whatever. And we would do these experiments. I know when he was in Sweden with you, I'm not sure if I played with him from Australia or from here. I'm not sure, but
that's
we would,
right. Yes, you're right. I remember
we
that
would do
now.
these
Yes.
performances where I would be in one continent, he would be in another, or I would be in Italy, he would be in New York. Wherever he would be, he'd beam me in. But at the time, it was this. We're talking 2020, about 20 years ago. You could only play to someone. It was one way. So
Yeah.
I would play, and then he would play along with me, or vice versa. But now with this Elk thing, they're in Stockholm actually. So
I need to go
it's
there.
totally
Of course.
interactive. And I saw somebody playing piano accompanying an opera singer at a distance.
Amazing. I mean, it's incredible, right?
Yes.
So back to what I really like, though. I mean, there is of course a lot of nothing can be better than to meet live and play live, etc.
Of course.
But in the teaching world, because we're talking about students who've been playing for a while. I always been pushing, you need to record yourself and make videos so you see if your shoulder is up or down or whatever. And suddenly everybody was recording themselves. And I saw that improvement of sound and videos and all that stuff. So, and I mean, that's the best teacher, right? Because the answer is like up in your face when you watch yourself. So I think it was perfect of that fact that actually everybody spent a lot of time. But what I see now is like no one, everybody was so fed up with the whole kind of streaming and all that stuff. So, but I think combination is good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think now this, as you say, the combination, but also being able easily to go anywhere. I mean, I'm here now and I teach online, many students all over the world, or my local students, some who I would see in person, but when before COVID, after COVID, some who would be like 40 minutes away from downtown. I'm right downtown, but if they're 40 minutes away, they would say, listen, Aldo, online this works so well. I can save 2 hours if I stay home.
Yeah. Yeah,
So there's a real practical side of that, which is amazing.
it
And
is. And I mean, right now, just before this, we met now, I'm on a, this week we have Banff online, and then we follow up in the end of July into August live. But the good part with this is like you actually start to know each other because you see each other all the time, everybody.
yep,
And normally when you know it is you come to a camp, okay, here is your name and then here is your badge, here is your room, bye. And you meet maybe on dinners or lunch, etc. It takes a while to start to know each other. Now you have your names all the time, and after a while you sort of you have a conversation. Then when you meet live, you actually know the people much better.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that's a great bonus,
yeah.
really.
And also the fact of being more mobile. I mean, when I was last year when I started traveling, I'd be in Italy because I have a place in Italy, and I would tell my students, no, I'm not going to stop teaching when I'm traveling because now
Right.
you go with me wherever I am. So
Yeah.
I would be in Rome, I'd be in Venice, I would be somewhere else or in my place, and I'd be teaching. Where are you now? Look at the background. Here I am. So let's get to work. But it doesn't stop your flow, and
Exactly.
it's amazing. That's amazing. So imagine
It-
you can even perform. Not that it definitely doesn't replace the live thing, but having like this elk thing now, so that you can have rehearsals, you can have concerts, you can do preparation of things on the spot. And now that we're comfortable with the technology, also we have the sound, we have the video, so it makes it a lot easier. But then when you're live, it's just that other three-dimensional.
it is. And I think for future festivals when, you know, someone you can maybe not participate because you have something else, but you can at least step in for a while and have a high quality meeting with everybody, right? So that's incredible.
Yeah.
So
And this with this whole meta thing or this new, I'm dying to see what's going to happen like in 5 years when people can actually walk into the room and everybody's got their glasses on.
yeah. Exactly. Wow.
Amazing, amazing. The,
Technology is incredible. I mean, it's what fantastic time we live in, right?
oh,
There is so
this
many, but sometimes
super.
it's so frustrating because it's so many possibilities. So you get like, oops, like, you know.
Oh,
So
it's easy. It's really easy to get overwhelmed. And the other thing too is that people would say, "Oh, this is the end of music. This is, it's the end of music as we knew it." I mean, as we were growing up, we would have to physically be there. We'd have to go great distances. We'd have to do all kinds of things. There was a lot going on, but there's still a lot going on now. On a different level. Now it's the universe, right?
yeah, exactly. And I think it's many don't grow up to kind of go on a concert and get inspired to play an instrument. They can get inspired through logic or whatever. It's like you say, what sound is that? Oh, it's a double bass. What is that? And then you start to really dig into it, right? And I
Yeah,
think there's nothing wrong with that. It's like I think it's only good as well. So it's just another way to go,
yeah,
sort of.
yeah. No, and I think it's just forward motion. It's a different time. I think the performance level that's not going to change. In fact, there's more pressure now to have a higher performance level than even we grew up with,
Oh yeah,
and more universal. And there's nothing wrong with somebody not being a professional player and just enjoying it. And the more of them that there are there, the better. It's just good for everybody, right?
absolutely, totally. So,
What are
but I
the
think
things?
all of us live in that kind of thing. Okay, what should I do when I grow up? It's like
No, yeah.
it's a constant learning. I love it. It's like
Yeah.
that's so inspiring.
It's funny that you say that because we're never gonna grow up.
No,
That's for
that's
sure.
how I feel many times. Like,
And then the other question is, you've been doing this for a long time. When are you gonna retire? And you say, retire. Retire from what?
Ex- exactly.
So
I mean,
that's another funny
I
question.
heard you talked about was it Burritt's session when you talked about Keiko, and I had a pleasure to be with her for a week in Taiwan. There was like Yamaha artists, blah blah blah. Anyway, so every lunch she was up with a score, handwriting. I said, "What are you doing?" "I'm composing for an orchestra and myself, and this is like maybe August or something, and the premiere should be November. So I'm thinking, I'm hoping would be in that kind of, energy when I'm in that age. That was like she was probably 79 or 80 or something. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. No. It's amazing, these people, and people like her. I mean, even Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Mick Jagger. These guys are up there, and they're still playing. And as a matter of fact, David Amram, who is a really incredible person, I've played with him many times. He used to play with Dizzy Gillespie. And I've played him in New York and many different places, the Montreal Jazz Festival. And then as I'm speaking to him, he's like 92 or 93, and he's talking like he's 25.
yeah,
And he's got projects. And if I add up the number of projects that he has, technically he would never have the time to do a half of them.
exactly.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's amazing. Just the fact that you have that energy, and when you have it, as long as we have the health, of course,
I
that's
mean,
the
health.
only
Yeah,
thing.
that's number one, of
Yeah,
course. I mean,
the
it's like
health, mental and physical. But if you have that, I mean, people like Keiko, because she surprised me. I mean, you know the story. When we were playing with her in Tokyo, and
yeah,
I thought, I'm looking at the guys, and I was playing the part that we start the after the introduction, I give the tempo. So the original tempo that she had originally was
oh, marimba spiritual,
like that.
right?
Yeah. So I thought, for the rehearsal, because we went through it before the concert, we met that day. So I said, well, let's just, I went there. And she turns around and looks at me. And then she goes like, so I take it up. She's not playing. I take it up. She's not playing. Up. And then the guys were all looking at me saying, like, we can read each other's eyes. And I'm thinking, she's not going to make it. Like, you can't possibly play this piece to the end at this tempo. It was like, but she did. And
She
then we were
can.
more tired than she was.
That's amazing. That
Oh,
reminds me.
we had a really
Oh,
good
that-
laugh. But
It is-
here's the interesting thing, and you'll appreciate this, because we played the thing to the letter, and you want to be fidel, you want to be truthful to the composition. Then she turns around and she says, you don't have to play exactly what's there. It's really made to improvise.
Yeah,
And I did not know that at that point. And I said, it makes so much sense. And why get stuck with this? It's just, you have the framework. So as long as you understand what is being played here, or the idea behind it, or the energy, or the idea behind all of this, or the kind of the concept, the thinking behind this. I mean, it's rock and roll, right?
it is. It is. I mean, speaking of that, I have a trio with a organ player, a church organ player, and a singer. And the organ player and I, we met '94 first, and it was the same thing like that. And we call it for our laboratorium. So like, we had people who would like to compose for us, and we said no, because we would like to have our space. And we take, I mean, we can take any song and just tweak it in whatever we would like to. But it's hard sometimes for both of us when we really need to play what's written, because it's like we know that we have so many ideas. So you feel like, okay, seatbelt, okay, so stay there, and I mean, and it's I feel spoiled to be surrounded with people like that. It's like that you can have that freedom, sort of. So.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wish everybody had that, so because it's a fun way to make music, right?
Sure. No, absolutely. And some people are afraid of it, or they just never had the opportunity, or given the opportunity to work with it enough to get comfortable with it, because they're
Yeah.
either it's too busy or something,
But with that said, I really admire a lot of orchestral people and chamber players and so on. Have a friend here in Stockholm, for example, who works in the opera, and he loves opera. I said, you cannot be I don't know anyone who are so perfect on that spot. Plus, I mean, he's a great improviser as well. But just that kind of, he read the whole opera. He knows exactly what's going on. He can even, I think he said to me once that he can even cry when when he on the scenes because it's like it's so strong for him and so on. I think that,
Right.
wow, that's a good fit. Like, you know. So I think it's special. I mean, we all of us have different kind of things we feel for and we like to do, etc. So it's just wonderful when the right person on the right spot, sort of. So
Yeah. I mean, what are the kinds of things now that really pull you, having done what you've done all of these years? What's that thing that really pulls you right now, though? Musically speaking.
uh, can you say that again?
Yeah,
I lost you a little there.
I mean, of all the things that you've been doing over these years, of all the different musics, different approaches to things, because I don't want to put words in your mouth, because I want you to think about like where you would be going with this. Where would you see what you're doing going in your hands? Does that make sense?
That's a good
Musically,
question.
I'm pushing you a little bit.
Yeah, you do.
I mean,
It's interesting.
we're shaping our journey, right? So you're thinking, okay, I've done all of this, which is fantastic. You've played this anything structural. I mean, we could do that. It could also be totally free, but be great composition, great performance, one of a kind. Technologies in our hands. You live in Sweden. What is that next for you?
I mean, like we said, it's first hope and really stay super healthy and can, you know, have all these ideas going. But I mean, a dream, of course, would be to have a steady tree or something that it really can happen. That I mean, so you really could be supported and do all these ideas because sometimes it's a struggle, of course, right? I have a great vibe, bass and vibes duo, for example, where incredible bass player, and I see that can go anywhere, basically. But it's a niche like this in many people's eyes, so maybe to see that going a little better and those kind of things. But at the same time, the whole technology part, I wish I'm working on it. I will be better and better, I hope, and I think that's triggers me a lot because it's so many wonderful soundscapes you can be in, and also, of course, playing wise, I hope it, you know, constant would grow more and come up with more and more new ideas, etc. So
Yeah.
that's sort of that's what I'm thinking on all the time.
And I mean, I see more and more uh, people taking up percussion and mallets specifically. I mean, you have all this world music phasing into it. Like everybody has a much larger view now than even when I was growing up and studying. I mean, I've always been I didn't see the difference. To me, there are seven notes, and then with repercussion with the group, it gave me the opportunity to break all the barriers and be able to learn everything that came to mind. My only fear was every day I would wake up and suddenly realize, how can I possibly practice all of these instruments that I'm taking on? Frame drums, drum
Yeah.
set, mallets, Cuban, because then I got seriously into Cuban drumming, African, on and on and on. Then you live. I lived a little bit in fear that I would forget everything. you know.
I mean, I think that's super normal, right? And plus, sometimes you feel like, okay, now I focus on this. Oh, wait a minute, I need to go that way, and I can see that stress of students and myself as well, right? And you sit down at the drums and oh, this is the thing, and it's like, oh, I should, and then all those kind of things. But I think to say yes, maybe to what I think the difference is like now I can say yes to myself to different kinds of things, right? More and say, okay, I really like this, I appreciate this. Okay, I do this, and I know this is not my field. You should call that person or something like, you know. So you can I think in the beginning or so we are so eager to be for everybody and take everything in, etc. Right? But I think to go deep in a few things, for me at least, helped me to get better on other things, because
Yeah.
you feel that you can have something that you build your identity on, sort of.
Yeah.
But then the interesting part, we talk about mallets. So what I'm thinking is like, you stand on a vibraphone or behind a vibraphone, you're a jazz player immediately. You're a jazz vibraphonist. It's like, and it's nothing wrong with that. I love that. But there is other music I play, for example. But I think we live with a lot of images sometimes. Oh, you get questions out, can you play jazz on marimba? Like, yes, you can. And
David Samuels.
it made me, yeah, I mean, yes. And I mean, for me, the instruments have always been together. I don't really feel any difference between them. Of course, it's difference, but you need to build it into one, like you do with a drum set, right? You want to build the kit to sound good. And I have the same feeling, so on. So I think sometimes it's easy to lock ourselves into a corner, something, and say, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am. But maybe you can try to do other things as well. It's easy to say, I know, it sounds like, but I probably like you, I grew up, you play music, that's it. There was no discussion about tonight you play swing and today it's like you play kit, and then okay, you try to figure that out. You play timpani today, tomorrow, whatever it is. But it's like, for me, it's like it's a big world of colors that you can work on, and you can do it in so many different kinds of beautiful things, right? So
No, very well said. That is very well said. And I mean, you made me think the two things that really worked for me, that actually saved me, was being in repercussion. At the same time that I was doing everything else, repercussion, the four of us, we forced each other and ourselves that every day or every piece, we played different instrument. So by the sheer fact that you had to play, in one you're playing drum set, another one you're playing djembe, another one you're playing timpani, another one you're playing marimba, another one vibes and bongos, so you're constantly keeping those up automatically, because every day you're rehearsing or touring or playing. So that set the pace. The other thing that helped me later was my own personal concept of time, meaning time in the sense frame. A day, it doesn't have to be 24 hours. A day could be the week. So you stretch yourself out and you say, I want to make the rounds of these things, and schedule in my mind to just touch upon these things one at a time, and just to remember and keep developing. But that time frame doesn't have to be a week, doesn't have to be a day, doesn't even have to be a month. So then that liberated me, because I was like, I'm like, now you want to play what? You want to learn what? And I'm developing this whole tarantella thing, with just my own tradition, frame drums, but at the drum set, incorporating drum set and multiple hybrid with that. Partly because, some days I just couldn't make up my mind. And other days I'm saying, well, if my hands are practicing, my feet should be doing something. So I always incorporate all parts so that everybody gets a chance. And it just keeps you going. So the time frame then becomes much larger. And
do you know that takes me back to KoSA when we played the first time, actually, because I remember that it was like, I saw your setup. I was thinking, wow, this is exciting. Here I stand with my marimba and vibes. Okay, let's see what happened. And then what happened is like I dive into your sounds. So I forget that keyboard stuff. And then the hands can sort of just play on what you do, sort of. So, and that's... and that I still remember those kind of triggers you had, right? And electronic stuff's going on. It's like it was like this bass line coming up on one of your frame drums or something. It's like, that's very good. Like that.
No, and it, I mean, it just adds to your sound palette, instruments and sounds, and now I've added more more things. And even the Cuban, I wrote this book, Cuban Rhythms for Percussion and Drum Set. And I've been going really deep with that, going to Cuba for years, and I've been incorporating that a little bit more. And even, I mean, the book itself, the Ministry of Culture in Cuba has accepted this book as an official book in
Wow.
Cuba, Cuba music
Oh,
schools, which is,
congratulations. Wow.
yeah, I mean, that was amazing. So you're pushing this envelope of possibilities, and I think what's important is getting, because I always wanted to learn all of these things, and I said, how far can I push this before I go crazy myself? But you just learn so much, and it's all cross learning. The more you learn one, the more you can play something else better.
Yeah,
It's
very
amazing.
true.
And
Very
and
true.
e- and I would even go as far as to say, and now that I've explored so much the Cuban musics, because Cuba is a musical continent. A lot of people have the wrong idea just because they haven't been there or taken the time to explore. But I thought, this is the first thing that should be taught. The clave, and how the clave is so universal. Music is not universal. The clave is more universal than music, and it's present in everything, except for contemporary music, contemporary Western music, and Indian classical music. Apart from that, the clave is like this five-note phrase that is present in everything. So if you go to Cuba, where the clave, all music is not the same. They have like many different lineages.
Hmm.
But what's common to all of it is this clave thing. But clave is not just unique to Cuba; it's to everything. Beethoven,
Yeah.
Charlie Parker, everybody. So if you start with that, it makes bebop, it makes classical music and improvisation a lot more meaningful and interesting to play. And now I become the preacher of this because I said, no, you should start with this. It shouldn't be the thing that you do after that you learn your instrument. No. It should be at the same time. Anyway,
Yeah, I mean, it's you're talking basically on when you talk about education to build in the theory from day one, right? Together
yeah,
with your practicing, sort of, which
yes,
is like for many of us was like separate things, and then it's like, oops, before they get kind of married and so on, takes a while.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I agree. I mean, it's also I had a duo with a lute player for a while and baroque player, incredible and medieval, and it that was like a really good kind of page turn for me to dive into that, and then the way you need to kind of approach to the lute, for example, it's like that's totally another word, and suddenly the instrument sounds so different, right? And then you come into
yes,
another tradition. So all of those elements is wonderful to. I think in general it would be great to see education wise that everybody try to play together, whatever style you are in. But sometimes it's so, no, I'm folk music, no, I'm jazz player, no, I'm this. It's like,
yeah,
I like when everything's kind of goes together, and then you can learn from each other, and then you can go back, and that will stretch your expertise in those kind of different fields. So,
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think those of us who speak about it or preach it, like you are, it makes other people think about it and be more open to that possibility because people are capable if you give them the
absolutely. I mean, I think
possibility.
it comes down to time many times. I mean, it's like, yes, I mean, a day can be a week or month, but there is a lot of things you need to include in those week or days or months. So and suddenly that need to change because we had things we need to do, right? And so, but I think if it's a constant kind of, if you live, if you feel that you're creative in your mind, I think that can takes you into so many incredible places, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and also I think not just in the music and being able to improvise, uh, given the situation, the instrumentation, the personalities, the people, it's transferable to any situation when you have to deal with a situation at the bank or with
oh
your
yeah,
insurance company,
absolutely,
or all of a
yeah.
sudden the situation changes and you just got to keep moving, and that you got to improvise and be. It's a lot more
It
fun.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think the highlights in the whole teaching world is like it's just when you feel it in a room, it's like you give a key and suddenly they open it. It's like they open a door, and it's not me helping find a way. It's that person just got it and found his way or her way to kind of go that way. And I'm thinking, wow, that's the highlight. So
Yep. No, no,
I remember,
absolutely,
I remember when I
absolutely.
was teaching kids, when I was teaching beginners. So I was very quick to say to kids who've been maybe 1 or 2 years older, I said, hey, you will be a mentor for this beginner. So I put together like a beginner week. So I had 2 beginners, 1 mentor, and that guy can be 2 years older. And then I say, okay, today you can try those and those things, and if you get ideas, go for it. What happened was like, first of all, the beginners see, oh, he's studied on my same school as me. He's just 2 years older. I will show him that I can really be as good as him. And then this kid, the mentor, comes to me and say, it's really tough when they don't practice. And I think it's like, you got it. It's like, so, and that's beautiful. But I think
Yeah, yeah,
it's like, it's like to be a leader on a company or something. You delegate and you give the trust to a person and say, I know you can do it.
yeah,
And then things happen.
yeah. No, no, that's. I mean, we can talk about this forever, and it's. I mean, I think what's important is just being an instrument of inspiration. Whatever we do, we're giving to the situation so that it makes somebody else think, and then it makes you think, and then you see the results, and then somebody else thinks, and then something else happens positive, and that's evolution, right? So I think
I
that's
think so.
important.
Yeah, agree,
Yeah.
agree.
Well, listen, we can go on for weeks about this, but I really appreciate you taking the time with me to talk about, I mean, your journey and what you've been doing and what you're up to, and I know where you're going, and I certainly look forward to playing with you again. That's for sure, and that'll be really soon.
That will be
Yes,
in November.
November. Yes,
No commercial,
yes.
but it's in November.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. No, no, this will be great. And Julie Spencer will be doing a trio.
Yeah.
Oh, this I'm really excited about this, and also I'll be in Europe, so you'll be hearing from me a little bit more. I'll be knocking on your doors. I say, "What are you doing this afternoon?" Don't be surprised.
I'm out.
Anyway, but thank you so
Oh,
much, Andrew. This has been wonderful. Thank you for taking the time.
thanks, Aldo.
To be continued.